My name is Cordelia, and at 62 years old, I thought I'd seen everything life could throw at me. I was wrong. My father-in-law Bancroft had been living with us for 3 years after his stroke left him partially paralyzed. He was 81, confined to a wheelchair, but his mind was sharp as ever. On a Tuesday morning in March, I brought him his breakfast like always. Oatmeal with brown sugar, the way he liked it. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Cordelia," he said, his voice shaking. "I need to ask you something important." "Of course, Bancroft, anything. When I die, and it won't be long now, I need you to delete my browser history. All of it, before Desmond sees it." I laughed nervously, thinking he was joking. "Bancroft, you're not dying anytime soon. And nobody cares about browser history. Please," he grabbed my hand with surprising strength. "Promise me, delete everything on my laptop before anyone else looks." His desperation scared me. "I promise," I said quietly. He relaxed back into his pillows, relieved. "Thank you. You're a good woman, Cordelia. Better than this family deserves." That conversation haunted me all day. Bancroft had always been kind to me, unlike my husband Desmond, who'd grown cold over our 35 years of marriage. Bancroft never criticized, never judged. He was just a sweet old man who loved watching nature documentaries and doing crossword puzzles on his laptop. What could possibly be in his browser history that worried him so much? I tried to push it from my mind. That evening, Desmond came home late from his law firm as usual. He barely greeted me, just poured himself scotch and disappeared into his office. Our daughter lived in Seattle. Our son had died in a car accident 10 years ago. The house felt empty despite 3 people living in it. I checked on Bancroft before bed. He was asleep, breathing softly. His laptop sat on the table beside him, closed. I wondered what secrets it held. The next morning, I found Bancroft unresponsive. I called 911, screaming for help. The paramedics worked on him for 20 minutes, but he was gone. Massive heart attack in his sleep. Peaceful, they said. I stood there numb, remembering his desperate plea. Delete my browser history. The funeral was small. Bancroft had outlived most of his friends. Desmond gave a brief eulogy about his father's career as an accountant, nothing personal or warm. I cried more than my husband did. After the service, people came back to our house. Desmond's sister Georgina flew in from Dallas. She'd always disliked me, thought I wasn't good enough for her brother. I served coffee and sandwiches while they talked about estate matters and selling Bancroft's old house that had been sitting empty. Nobody mentioned how much they'd miss him. That night, after everyone left, I remembered my promise. Bancroft's laptop was still in his room, untouched. I waited until Desmond went to bed, then quietly retrieved it. My hands shook as I opened it in the kitchen. The screen lit up, no password required. Bancroft had said delete the browser history. Simple enough. I opened Chrome and went to the history tab. But something made me pause. What had he been so desperate to hide? I started scrolling through the recent searches. At first, it was normal stuff. News sites, weather, crossword puzzles. Then I saw something that made my blood run cold. How to prove financial fraud. How to document elder abuse. Is my daughter-in-law being poisoned? I stared at that last search for a full minute. Is my daughter-in-law being poisoned? He'd been researching me. Why would Bancroft think I was being poisoned? My heart hammered as I kept scrolling. The searches went back months. Symptoms of arsenic poisoning. Symptoms of antifreeze poisoning. How to test for poison at home. Signs your spouse is trying to kill you. There were dozens of searches, all following a similar theme. Bancroft had suspected someone was trying to poison me. But who? And why hadn't he said anything directly? I clicked on his bookmarked pages. There was a folder labeled important, hidden among his crossword puzzle sites. Inside were links to articles about inheritance law, life insurance policies, and something that made my stomach drop. A forum for people suspecting their family members of attempted murder. Bancroft had created an account under the name Concerned Phil 81. I clicked on his post history. My daughter-in-law is 62 and has been increasingly sick over the past year. Her doctor says it's just aging, but I've noticed patterns. She gets violently ill after certain meals. Her husband, my son, shows no concern. I'm wheelchair-bound and can't investigate properly. What should I look for? The responses to Bancroft's post were chilling. Document everything. Check her medication bottles. Look for unusual substances in the house. Get her hair tested for heavy metals. One user wrote, your son might be slowly poisoning her for life insurance money. It happens more than people think. I sat back, trying to process this. Was Desmond trying to kill me? It seemed insane, but then I thought about the past year. I had been sick frequently. Stomach cramps, nausea, dizziness, fatigue. My doctor, Dr. Hewitt, kept saying it was probably stress or early signs of diabetes. He'd run basic blood tests that came back normal. Desmond had been annoyed by my illness, calling me dramatic when I complained of pain. He'd started making me special smoothies in the morning, saying they'd help with my energy. He insisted I drink them, got angry when I didn't finish them. Those smoothies, I felt sick thinking about it. I kept reading Bancroft's forum posts. He'd documented dates and times when I'd gotten ill, always after Desmond prepared food specifically for me. He'd noted that Desmond had taken out a new life insurance policy on me 2 years ago. $1 million. I hadn't known about that. Bancroft had written, I've been watching my son carefully. He prepares her morning smoothie in the basement where I can't see. He won't let anyone else make her food on certain days. She trusts him completely. I'm terrified I'm watching a murder in slow motion and I'm too disabled to stop it. Someone had responded, can you get a sample of what he's giving her? Test it. Bancroft replied, I'm working on it. My hands are clumsy from the stroke but I'll try. There was one more post, dated 3 days before he died. I managed to collect a sample from her smoothie cup when she left it on my table. I sent it to a private lab using a mail-order kit. Results should arrive next week. I'll update then, but he died before the results came. I checked his email, hands trembling. There in his inbox was a message from Accutest Labs with the subject line, Sample Analysis Results. I clicked it open. The report was technical, but the summary was clear. Sample contains ethylene glycol at 3.2 milligrams concentration. This substance is the main ingredient in antifreeze and is highly toxic to humans. Repeated exposure at this level would cause the symptoms described, organ damage, gastrointestinal distress, neurological impairment, and eventual kidney failure leading to death. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. Desmond was poisoning me. My husband of 35 years was putting antifreeze in my morning smoothies. Bancroft had known and tried to gather proof. He'd died before he could show anyone. I splashed water on my face, trying to think clearly. The house was quiet. Desmond was asleep upstairs. I went back to the laptop and kept searching through Bancroft's files. He'd created a folder of evidence. Screenshots of Desmond's computer showing Google searches for undetectable poisons and how long does antifreeze poisoning take to kill. Photographs Bancroft had somehow taken from his wheelchair showing Desmond going down to the basement with bottles. Bank statements showing large cash withdrawals that Desmond couldn't explain. And a video. Bancroft had set up his tablet to record from his nightstand. The video showed our kitchen, partially visible through his bedroom door. I watched as Desmond came down early one morning, looked around to make sure he was alone, then pulled a small bottle from his pocket. He poured something into the blender before adding fruit and yogurt. The timestamp was from 2 weeks ago. My hands shook so hard I could barely control the mouse. I copied everything from Bancroft's laptop onto a flash drive. All the evidence, all the research, all the forum posts. Then I carefully deleted his browser history like he'd asked. But I understood now why he wanted it deleted. If Desmond found this evidence before I did, he'd destroy it. Bancroft had been protecting me even in death. I looked at the clock. It was 3 in the morning. I needed to think, to plan. If I confronted Desmond, what would happen? Would he hurt me immediately? Would he destroy the evidence? I needed help, but who could I trust? The police. I needed to go to the police. But first, I needed to be safe. I quietly packed a bag with clothes and toiletries. I grabbed my passport, my credit cards, and the flash drive with all of Bancroft's evidence. I wrote a note saying I was going to visit my sister in Phoenix for a few days. That would buy me time. As I crept toward the front door, a voice stopped me. Going somewhere, Cordelia? I turned. Desmond stood at the top of the stairs in his pajamas, face shadowed. His voice was cold, suspicious. Just to my sisters, I said, trying to sound normal. I need a break after the funeral. At 3 in the morning? Without telling me first? My mind raced. You were asleep. I didn't want to disturb you. Desmond came down the stairs slowly. Something about his posture frightened me. Where's Dad's laptop? He asked casually. I put it in his room. Why? I thought I'd go through his files. Make sure there's nothing important before we donate it. My heart pounded. The laptop was still in the kitchen where I'd left it. Did you look at it? he asked. His eyes were fixed on mine. No, I lied. I just moved it. Desmond walked past me into the kitchen. I heard him pick up the laptop, heard it open. He was checking. After a long moment, he came back. You deleted his history. How did you know to do that? He asked me to, I said. Before he died, he was worried about privacy. Desmond studied my face. What exactly did my father say to you, Cordelia? Just that he wanted his browser history cleared. That's all. Nothing else? Nothing else. Desmond set the laptop down. Then why are you leaving at 3 in the morning with a packed bag? His tone had gone from suspicious to dangerous. I couldn't think of a good lie. The silence stretched too long. I saw his expression change as he understood. You looked, didn't you? You saw what he'd found. I ran. I dropped my bag and bolted for the front door. But Desmond was faster than I expected. He grabbed my arm and yanked me backward. I screamed, but we lived on 5 acres with no close neighbors. Where do you think you're going? He snarled. His grip was bruising. You've been poisoning me, I shouted. Bancroft knew. He documented everything. Desmond's face went cold. That meddling old man. I knew he was watching me too closely. Where's the evidence? I don't have it. It's already with the police. I lied desperately. They'll be here any minute. He laughed, a horrible sound. No, they won't. You haven't called anyone. You just found out tonight. I can see it on your face. He dragged me toward the basement door. I fought him, clawing at his arms, but at 62, I wasn't strong enough. He threw open the basement door and shoved me down the stairs. I tumbled hard, hitting my shoulder and head on the concrete floor. Pain exploded through my body. I'll make this quick, Desmond said from the top of the stairs. Should have done it weeks ago, but I wanted it to look natural. Your organs are probably damaged enough now that an accident will make sense. He started down the stairs toward me. I scrambled backward, pain shooting through my shoulder. The basement was dark except for light from the stairway. Desmond's shadow loomed larger as he descended. Why? I gasped. Why are you doing this? Money, he said simply. Your life insurance. My firm is drowning in debt from bad investments. I need that $1 million. Plus, I'm tired of you, Cordelia. Tired of pretending. Sloan and I want to start fresh. Sloan. The name hit me like a punch. Our nurse? The woman we'd hired to help with Bancroft? You've been sleeping with the woman we hired to care for your father? Desmond laughed. For 18 months. She's 32 and actually exciting, unlike you. We've been planning this since I took out your policy. Slow poisoning, then a tragic accident. But Dad had to interfere. I pressed against the cold basement wall. My hand touched something metal. A crowbar leaning against the wall. Where's the evidence? Desmond demanded. What did Dad save? Everything, I said. Videos of you poisoning me. Lab results showing antifreeze. Bank statements. Forum posts. He saved everything, and I already sent copies to my lawyer. Another lie, but I was desperate. Desmond's face twisted with rage. You're lying. You just found it tonight. You haven't had time. I gripped the crowbar behind my back. You're right, I admitted. I just found it, but I copied everything to a flash drive. I mailed it before you woke up. Now you're really lying, he said. The post office isn't open at 3 in the morning. He was right. I was trapped. Desmond reached for me. I swung the crowbar with all my strength. It connected with his knee. He screamed and fell backward on the stairs. I didn't wait. I ran past him, climbing over his body as he clutched his leg. He grabbed my ankle, but I kicked free. I made it to the top of the stairs and slammed the basement door shut. There was a lock on the outside, an old slide bolt. I threw it closed just as Desmond reached the door. He pounded on it, screaming threats. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed my phone, and dialed 911. My hands shook so badly I could barely press the numbers. I need help, I gasped when the operator answered. My husband tried to kill me. He's been poisoning me. I have proof. I gave them my address. The operator stayed on the line, asking questions. Was I safe? Was I injured? I told her I'd locked my husband in the basement but didn't know how long that would hold. She said police were 7 minutes away. Desmond had stopped pounding on the door. That scared me more than the noise had. I grabbed the laptop and flash drive, clutching them like weapons. The house was too quiet. Then I heard breaking glass from the basement. There was a small window down there. Desmond was trying to escape. I ran to the front door, but it was locked with a deadbolt that needed a key. Desmond had the keys in his pocket. I tried the back door. Same thing. He'd been preparing for this, making sure I couldn't easily escape. I heard him climbing through the basement window. I ran upstairs to our bedroom and locked the door. It was flimsy, wouldn't hold long. I pushed the dresser in front of it. My shoulder screamed in pain from the fall. I could hear him in the house now, climbing the stairs. "Cordelia," he called out, voice eerily calm. "This is only making things worse. Just come out. We can talk about this. Where are the police?" It had been maybe 4 minutes. 3 more until they arrived. If they arrived, Desmond tried the bedroom door, found it locked. Then he started ramming it with his body. The door cracked. The dresser scraped across the floor with each impact. I looked around desperately. The bedroom window. I opened it and looked down. 2-story drop onto concrete patio. I'd break both legs. The door splintered. Desmond's hand reached through, trying to unlock it from inside. I grabbed a heavy lamp and smashed it against his fingers. He pulled back with a howl of pain. I looked at the window again. There was a trellis on the side of the house, covered with old ivy. It might hold me, it might not, but staying here meant death. I climbed onto the windowsill just as the bedroom door burst open. Desmond lunged for me. I jumped to the trellis. It held for 1 second, then started pulling away from the wall. I slid down fast, scraping my arms and face on rough wood and thorns. I hit the ground hard, ankle twisting beneath me. Pain shot up my leg, but I forced myself to stand. Desmond appeared at the window above. I limped toward the front yard. My ankle wouldn't support my weight properly. Behind me, I heard Desmond coming down the stairs. He'd be outside in seconds. Then I saw the most beautiful sight of my life. Red and blue lights coming up our long driveway. 2 police cars racing toward the house. I collapsed on the front lawn, sobbing with relief. The police cars screeched to a stop. Officers jumped out, hands on their weapons. Desmond came around the side of the house and froze when he saw them. The next hours were a blur. The police separated us immediately. They took statements, photographs of my injuries, and secured the house as a crime scene. I showed them everything on the laptop and flash drive. Bancroft's research, the lab results, the video of Desmond adding poison to my smoothie. An ambulance arrived. Paramedics checked me over. Sprained ankle, bruised shoulder, multiple lacerations from the trellis, but alive. They wanted to take me to the hospital immediately for blood tests and organ function screening. I watched as officers handcuffed Desmond and put him in a police car. His face was blank, emotionless. He didn't even look at me. Detective Ramona Voss arrived as they were loading me into the ambulance. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. "Mrs. Keller," she said, "I'm going to meet you at the hospital. We'll need a full statement, but I want you to know something right now. What you've shown us is compelling evidence. Your father-in-law may have saved your life." I started crying again, thinking of Bancroft. He'd died trying to protect me. The hospital ran extensive tests. My kidney function was impaired, liver enzymes were elevated. The toxicology screen confirmed ethylene glycol in my system. Dr. Patel, the attending physician, explained that I'd been chronically poisoned for months. "A few more weeks of exposure," Dr. Patel said grimly, "and you would have suffered complete kidney failure. You're extremely lucky your father-in-law intervened." I spent 2 days in the hospital getting chelation therapy to remove the poison from my body. Detective Voss visited daily, building her case. She'd obtained a warrant for Desmond's phone and computer. What they found was devastating. Text messages between Desmond and Sloan, our former nurse, planning my death in explicit detail. Sloan had been researching poisons, suggesting antifreeze because it was sweet enough to hide in fruit smoothies. They'd discussed how to make it look like natural organ failure. How to comfort my family while secretly celebrating. How they'd travel to Europe once the insurance money came through. There were emails to insurance companies, Desmond increasing my policy to $1.5 million just 3 months ago. I hadn't known. He'd forged my signature on the documents. They found the bottle of antifreeze hidden in his office, partially empty. Forensics matched it to the substance found in my smoothie sample and in my bloodstream. Detective Voss explained the charges. Attempted murder, insurance fraud, forgery, assault, unlawful imprisonment. Desmond was being held without bail. Sloan had been arrested at her apartment, trying to pack for a sudden trip to Mexico. She faced conspiracy charges. My daughter flew home from Seattle. She was devastated, couldn't believe her father would do this. She'd always thought we had a good marriage. I realized I'd hidden how bad things had gotten. The coldness, the distance, the contempt. I'd normalized it over decades. My lawyer, Patricia Chen, the same attorney who'd handled our wills, was shocked. She'd met with Desmond dozens of times and never suspected. He was charming, professional, successful. The mask had been perfect. The trial happened 8 months later. The prosecution's case was overwhelming. They presented Bancroft's evidence, the lab results, the video, the text messages between Desmond and Sloan. Medical experts testified about my poisoning and the permanent kidney damage I'd suffered. Desmond's defense tried to claim I'd poisoned myself for attention and was framing him. It was absurd and the jury saw through it. They deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Desmond to 25 years in state prison. He'd be 90 years old before eligible for parole. Sloan got 15 years for conspiracy and being an accessory. She testified against Desmond, hoping for a reduced sentence. It didn't help much. During victim impact statements, I read a letter I'd written. I talked about the 35 years I'd given this man. The trust I'd placed in him. The life we'd built that he'd decided to destroy for money and a younger woman. I talked about Bancroft, a disabled elderly man who'd been more brave and resourceful than anyone gave him credit for. Who'd spent his final weeks desperately trying to save my life. Who'd died before seeing justice done. When I die, I said, looking directly at Desmond, I want you to know that Bancroft's love and courage meant more than all your decades of lies. The courtroom was silent. Desmond stared at his hands. After the trial, I sold our house. Too many terrible memories. I moved to a small condo in Portland, closer to my daughter. My health improved slowly. The kidney damage was permanent but manageable with medication and diet. I started therapy to process the trauma. It's been 3 years now. I'm 65 and living alone for the first time in my life. It's strange but peaceful. I have a cat named Bancroft, a ginger tabby who keeps me company. I volunteer at a senior center, helping elderly people with technology. Teaching them about internet safety, protecting themselves. Sometimes I think about how close I came to dying. If Bancroft hadn't been watching, hadn't been suspicious, hadn't spent his final weeks gathering evidence, Desmond would have succeeded. I'd be dead and he'd be living in Europe with Sloan, spending my life insurance money. Instead, he's in prison and I'm free. Truly free for the first time in decades. I visited Bancroft's grave last month. Brought flowers and sat on the grass talking to him. I told him the trial outcome, about my new life, about everything. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you for seeing what I couldn't see. For caring enough to investigate. For being brave when I wasn't. The private investigator I'd hired finished his report. He'd traced Desmond's finances back years. The affair with Sloan had started even before she was hired to care for Bancroft. Desmond had convinced her to apply for the job, giving them access to our home. They'd been stealing from Bancroft too, small amounts of cash and valuables. The life insurance fraud had been carefully planned for 18 months. They'd researched, practiced, and documented everything, never imagining someone would be documenting them. The investigation also revealed that Desmond's law firm wasn't actually failing. That had been a lie. He just wanted the money for his new life. He'd been willing to murder me for a faster payout rather than wait for divorce proceedings. Some people asked if I ever confronted Desmond, talked to him after sentencing. I didn't. What was there to say? He'd spent months slowly killing me while I trusted him with my life. No explanation would make that acceptable. No apology would heal that betrayal. I chose to focus on healing instead. Last week, I got a letter from Desmond's sister Georgina. She apologized for always being cold to me, for not seeing what her brother was capable of. She'd testified at the trial about Desmond's entitled attitude, his obsession with money. She'd cut all contact with him now. Her letter said something that stuck with me. Bancroft always liked you better than any of us. He used to tell me you were the kindest person in our family. I think that's why he fought so hard to save you. He knew you deserved better than my brother. I framed that letter. It sits on my desk next to a photo of Bancroft from before his stroke, smiling in his garden. He'd been a quiet man, easy to overlook. But in the end, he'd been a hero. Today is the anniversary of his death. I lit a candle for him this morning. My daughter called to check on me. She's pregnant with her first child, my first grandchild. She asked if it's a boy, could she name him Bancroft? I cried happy tears and said yes. Life moves forward. The poison is out of my system. The man who tried to kill me is behind bars. I have a future again, something Desmond tried to steal. And I have a second chance, bought with the courage of an elderly disabled man who refused to look away when he saw evil. I'll spend the rest of my life honoring that gift. If you've made it to the end of my story, thank you for listening. I'm sharing this because elder abuse and domestic violence can hide in plain sight, even in seemingly normal families. Bancroft was dismissed by many people as just an old man, disabled and dependent. But he saw what others missed and had the courage to act. To anyone living with someone you don't quite trust anymore, listen to that instinct. Document things that feel wrong. Reach out for help. And if you're an elderly person watching something terrible happen to someone you care about, know that you're not powerless. Bancroft proved that awareness and evidence can save lives, even when physical strength is gone. I learned that marriage doesn't guarantee safety. That decades together don't ensure loyalty. That the person sleeping beside you might be your greatest danger. But I also learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's a father-in-law who barely knew you but valued your life enough to spend his final days fighting for it. Trust your instincts. Document everything. And never, ever ignore a dying person's last request, no matter how strange it seems. Bancroft asked me to delete his browser history, but what he really did was hand me the evidence that would save my life. I'll be grateful to him for the rest of my days. Ethylene glycol poisoning from antifreeze is a real danger. If you suspect poisoning, seek immediate medical help and contact law enforcement. For domestic violence support, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Elder abuse can be reported to Adult Protective Services. Document everything. Your life may depend on it. Now to the lovely viewers of this channel. Got a story? We want to hear it. Your voice matters here. Whether it's a personal experience, a revenge moment, a wild betrayal, or just an idea that could make our next story even better, we're listening. Tell us what themes you want more of. What twists keep you hooked? What hit you hardest in this story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The best suggestions might become our next viral story. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more satisfying stories like this.